We've got a major report to discuss here on New York Giants Now by Chat Sports from the New York Post on the future of Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen with the New York Giants. Before we do that, though, I want you to get in the comment section and let me know how you're feeling. What should John Mara do? Fire Joe Schoen? Fire Brian Daboll? Or should he clean house? Sound off for me down below. This is New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. Appreciate everybody for stopping by as we react to what Paul Schwartz of the New York Post had to say. He wrote, "Don't assume the Giants will be firing both the GM and the coach," saying it is a split ticket. And here we go. The same song, the same dance, just a year later. This same exact report came out around this time last year. We did then see the Giants keep both Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. Schwartz is now writing, Daboll's fate isn't a package deal with Joe Schoen. And you can start to feel the split here between Daboll and Schoen. Two guys that left Buffalo to join the New York Giants. They were a package deal. Joe Schoen was really only going to take this job if he could hire Brian Daboll. He knew who the head coach was going to be. But really over the last 6 to 8 months, you can see it is no longer a we thing between the Buffalo duo. It is now a you and an I and a me thing. Paul Schwartz wrote this, and anybody that loves the Giants, reads up on the Giants, they know that Paul Schwartz has one of, I would say, the better connections to what is going on inside the Giants organization. He's extremely positive, but he does, I would say, have really good sources, especially at the top of what's going on with the Giants, especially in the front office. He wrote this, "It is not a perfect roster, but it is a better roster than the record indicates. It is not a perfect defense, but the personnel should be closer to a top 10 unit, especially with all the firepower up front. The Giants' defense is 28th in the NFL in scoring, 31st against the run, and has given up 33, 38, and 34 points in the past 3 games. For some reason, Daboll has not been able to get this team to finish games. And this is how the song goes when there is a general manager on the hot seat. They're going to blame the coaching staff. They're going to blame the head coach. I put together a better roster than what we are seeing on the field." It's exactly what Schwartz wrote. We have a better roster than what it is. Should be closer to top 10. You can now start to feel Joe Schoen blaming other people for his mistakes. He leads the league in doing it. He's the best at doing it. All of his mistakes are always someone else's fault. It is always that way. You go back to like 2022, we just need to trade for a receiver. And then in the 2023 offseason, we just got to go get a wide receiver 1 for Daniel Jones. Then Jones gets hurt. It's like, we just got to be healthy. Andrew Thomas goes down. We need our star left tackle. Then it was, Daniel Jones isn't the guy. We have everything else on this roster except for a quarterback. This guy has a laundry list of excuses for why the New York Giants have been one of the worst teams in the NFL since he got this job. Paul Schwartz also adding this, Daboll is an emotional volcano on the sideline, but he is mostly dormant when assessing the carnage that took place on game day. You can already see that he is starting to write other people's words at this point. You think he just woke up and decided to write this article? No, he finally got enough inside information to feel confident putting out this piece. And he is writing what others are saying, the others being the people inside the building. This just feels so slimy to me. I understand business is business. It's strictly financial. Yeah, we came in as best buds. We went to Rangers games together. We were all over the city. We were best friends, speaking about Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. And now it is Joe Schoen, me, Brian Daboll, yeah, I'm just going to coach the team. Pat Leonard has said this multiple times. It has gone from we to me with Joe Schoen. He has talked about how essentially he has sucked up to the right people in the front office to paint the picture that this is Brian Daboll's fault. I'm giving him enough talent. He's not getting the most out of himself and the coaching staff, which is total BS. Joe Schoen has earned the right to be fired just as much, if not more, than Brian Daboll has. I don't think anyone since January of 2022, when Joe Schoen took this job, would say that the Giants have had a top 12 roster in the NFL, that the Giants have had a top 28 roster or top 20 roster in the NFL. I just went back and I read an article where ESPN had them ranked as 27th coming into the NFL season. So don't tell me you built this superstar roster when non-biased people who cover this league didn't even have you higher than 20th ever. So, yeah, Joe Schoen, you can already see, is starting to try to paint the narrative that it's not my fault. It's Brian Daboll's fault. And now we're hearing that the New York Giants may be closer to keeping Schoen and blaming now Brian Daboll for their faults. It's unreal. I think at this point it's well known. I think they both should be fired. I said last year they both should be fired. So coming up next, we took a deep dive into every single move the New York Giants have made in the Joe Schoen tenure. And I'll tell you why he deserves to be fired. But first, I got to tell you about our proud sponsor of today's show. That is Ridge. If you are in the market for a new wallet, upgrade your wallet with Ridge. And when you go to ridge.com/chat or use that promo code chat, you're going to get 10% off your order today. I used to have a really old crusty wallet, and it was disgusting and beat up. And when I would pull it out to pay at a restaurant, at a bar, on a date, I would honestly feel a little bit embarrassed. But now with Ridge, I feel good. I feel so good about my wallet, and so do others, as it has over 100,000 five-star reviews. Also, over 50 plus colors and styles to choose from. I also love the fact that you can't lose it because there's a spot on the wallet for an AirTag attachment. So if you're like me and you lose your wallet all the time, get hooked up with Ridge. Also, there's more products with Ridge. It's not just about wallets, even though they are the best in the game. They create premium, everyday carry essentials like key cases, suitcases, and rings, all built with the same sleek, durable design. And for a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at ridge.com/chat, or just go to ridge.com and use the promo code chat. That's CHAT. Head to ridge.com and use code chat, and you're all set. After your purchase, they will ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them Giants Now by Chat Sports sent you. Alrighty, so why does Joe Schoen deserve to get fired? Let's just start at the top. Way too many misses in the NFL draft with way too many priority picks, premium picks. I mean, you go back to his first draft as a Giants general manager, he was gift wrapped the 5th pick and the 7th pick in that draft. And I understand this roster, it had a lot of holes when he took over. But this draft class, surprisingly, was actually one of his best. I used a color code chart for this. Yellow means it was a solid pick. Red means it was a bad pick. Green means it was an awesome pick. And for the yellow ones, I either put an up arrow, no arrow, or down arrow. Up meaning it's at the high end of a solid pick for yellow. And that's where I have Kayvon Thibodeau. I understand some people may disagree with that. I don't think Kayvon is a top player at his position. And with the 5th overall pick, I think that's what you need to be. Evan Neal, he is an obvious bust. I think everyone would agree with that. Wan'Dale Robinson, solid pick. I personally would not bring him back due to his limitations at that spot. Josh Azudu, he's a bust. Cordell Flott has been a solid pick. Not ready to give him a green just yet. Daniel Bellinger, for where he was picked, is a solid pick. He can be a backup tight end on almost any team in this league. I think Dane Belton has been a pretty bad pick. I think there's been some moments where he's played pretty well. I think he has some ability to force turnovers, but overall, he's having to start right now in the Giants. aren't doing too well on defense. I think Micah McFadden was a home run pick for a 5th-round selection. He's a starting inside linebacker and a pretty damn good one at that. DJ Davidson, Marcus McKeithen, and Darian Beavers, they are all busts for me. I want to bring my guy Andrew Connell onto today's show. These are my rankings. I don't want him to just disagree. I want him to tell me where I'm right, where I'm wrong, and I think we can all go to the first one in Kayvon Thibodeaux. I desperately wanted to give him a green check, a beautiful home run pick. I couldn't do it, though. I can't. I think he's a good player. I think he's a solid pick. But for the 5th overall selection, it just falls a bit short of me being a home run pick for Joe Schoen.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Is when you're talking about Kayvon, you have to consider where he was drafted. And when you're picked in the top 5, like if Kayvon was picked in the back half of the 1st round, he'd be a green for sure. There's no doubt about that. So I'm not gonna argue with that. I like Kayvon. It seems like they're gonna hold on to him and try and build around him with Abdul Carter and Brian Burns because they didn't trade him at yesterday's trade deadline. But yeah, you look at a guy who was picked 3 spots ahead of him, Aiden Hutchinson. He's been one of the best edge rushers in the league, and Kayvon's not quite in that tier yet. Going down the rest of the list, yeah, the O-line picks are misses. That's for sure.
That hurts.
Yeah, especially those are he's 67th pick, so those are top, basically almost 2nd round, first and early 3rd, late 2nd round pick. It hurts, and somehow the Giants O-line has been pretty good this year, actually, despite some of those major misses from Joe Schoen. But that was a position group that every GM for the Giants for the last 3 GMs have said they're going to fix. Joe Schoen said the same thing, and not good results on those 2 picks.
Maybe I could have gone Cordell Flott with an up arrow, but we've really only seen 5-6 games this year where he's played like a starter. He's a player I'm interested in bringing back. Do you think I'm off anywhere else on these, or are there any more that you would change?
Not really. Yeah, Bellinger has looked good of late, but and Flott have both looked good this year, but those are small sample sizes. Bellinger had some good moments his rookie year, then kind of fell off the map a little bit the last couple years before that. Belton, I think the concern with him is he hasn't really gotten on the field before this season. If he was really that good, he would have been on the field. The Giants would have had to add safeties. They've added Tyler Nubin and Javon Holland since then. So I think that's pretty accurate list. I'm not gonna make too many complaints about that.
Maybe it's Daniel Bellinger with a down arrow, but I believe he could be a backup tight end in this league. In the 2023 NFL draft for Joe Schoen, I think it's arguably one of the worst draft classes of all time. Deonte Banks, who you traded up for, you had to have. He is unplayable. Before this year, I had John Michael Schmitz as a bust. I was calling him a bust after week 2 of his sophomore season. Multiple people were upset with that. I had Giants media members upset for you can't do that way too early. I think he's actually played at a pretty decent level this year, so he's on the low end of a solid pick for me, despite with pick 57, you would hope you would have a top 18 center in this league, and I think he's somewhere around the top 22. I don't think there's anything else much needed to be said, though, about the rest of this class. Hyatt's a bust. Eric Gray is a bust. Trey Hawkins, Jordan Riley, Javarius Owens, none of them contribute to the New York Giants and helping them win.
Yeah, and you're not really exaggerating when you say this might be one of the worst draft classes of all time. 2 trades up for Banks and Hyatt, both clear misses. No arguments on that. I can't imagine anyone across the league is going to argue with that, especially yesterday on the trade deadline. The Giants
wanted them.
Giants couldn't get 6th or 7th round swaps or 7th round picks for these guys. So, and they're pretty early in their career. It's not like they're still. You would think they'd still be reclamation projects potentially for other teams, but just not interested in those guys.
If someone wanted to say John Michael Schmitz was a bust, look, you don't have too much of an argument coming from me. But I've seen some things on tape this year that tell me he can be maybe a top 20 center in this league. So he's on the low end of a solid pick for me. Not a great pick. Not the worst pick. I mean, Josh Azudu was picked, 8 picks later, and he's out of the league, or he doesn't play on this team.
You're picking an O-lineman in the first 2 rounds, even the first 3 rounds. You're hoping they develop into a starter, and for a center, you're hoping that's he was billed as a pro-ready, potential Pro Bowl center. And he's been far from that, although you have to give him some credit. The Giants, like you said, as a unit, have played pretty well this year on the O-line. So
then you go to the 2024 class, and I think we do this as fans. We do this in any sport. We overrate rookies. Malik Nabers, no one can argue it. He's a home run pick. He's already a top 5 player at the position, in my opinion. Tyler Nubin, I've seen enough. I don't think he's a starting safety in this league. I have him as a bust. Andrew Phillips, I have as a solid pick. There's times that we've seen he could be an impact player, and then there's other times where he can get flagged at a higher rate than anybody else and cost the team major field position. So with pick 70, I'm willing to say it was a solid pick. Maybe a down arrow goes there. Maybe an up arrow goes there. He's been down, and he has been up. Probably should have put a down arrow with Theo Johnson. I think we've seen enough to say that if this guy could just catch the football, he could produce at the tight end spot. And we've also seen enough plays where I'm cool with saying he's a solid pick. I'm sure some people, Andrew, would say that Tyrone Tracy is a green. You may feel that way. I'm not saying you're wrong. I think it's a solid pick. I think Tyrone Tracy is in a good role right now. RB2. And that's what I see. I don't see him as an RB1 in this league. So I'm going to call it a solid pick. And then Darius Moose, 6th-round pick. He's not an NFL player.
Yeah, I mean, still early on a lot of these guys as well. I think Tracy, the only argument for a green would be, like, look where he's picked in the 5th round. That's pretty good value to get a contributor, even if he's not the RB1. When you see guys, running backs, get picked in the top 10 at sometimes now in the modern era. So we'll see. I mean, I think you look at those middle 3, they're all contributors. So that would I guess you get some points for that they're not busts. Phillips, like, his potential makes me want to give him an up arrow. Maybe, like, we saw what he did against CeeDee Lamb week 2 against Dallas. Like, if he could play like that consistently, I think he could be an up arrow or a green there. But I think the rest of it, not really too much argument for me.
Yeah, look, I like Andrew Phillips. I think at times he gets lost in coverage. I don't think he plays the ball all that well. I think his best skill is being a run stopper and being a guy that makes plays there. I think he could be a solid slot corner in this league. I'm not ready to go green on that. For the 2025 class, I think it's too soon. There's obviously some nice picks there. But I think we would have all had these guys as green or yellows at the end of last season outside of Musau. I think we've seen a year later that sometimes you don't need to overreact and rate these guys. And, like, this is why the depth of the Giants roster is no good. They have some of the highest paid players in the NFL at some premium positions, but, like, you're down Malik Nabers and Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalin Hyatt, 2nd and 3rd round picks are supposed to contribute, and they just simply don't at this point. So the misses in the draft have contributed to the Giants' back end of the roster being at the bottom of the NFL. Another main point for me is talent leaves and it gets better. It seems like almost every player that leaves the New York Giants gets better. Even players like Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney and Leonard Williams, who were good here, they have taken their games to another level. Julian Love, he's a really good player for Seattle. I know he's had some injuries this year. He's been voted the team captain over there. The Giants offered him a 2-year, $12 million deal in the season, and then they gave him a chance. He gave the Giants a chance to match it in the offseason, and they said, no, you can walk. Leonard Williams, I don't think you got bad value back for him in a 2nd and a 5th round pick, but you turned it into Tyler Nubin, and yeah, Xavier McKinney never should have been let go. Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, I don't really want to talk about them too much. Just so many offseason misses as well. Like, this doesn't even factor in the talent that has left the New York Giants and gotten better. This is just like moves that you have made that you would have thought would have helped the New York Giants. Not major spending misses, but an allocation of resources that did not work. I mean, Mark Lewinsky was a total bust. He was unplayable midway through his first year. You gave up a 3rd-round pick for Darren Waller. That's a premium pick. Daniel Jones, you gave him $82 million. Say whatever you want. It didn't work out for the Giants, and it hamstrung them, and it's actually hamstringing you right now as you were paying him $20 million. Raheem Nunez-Roches, the run defense has been a major problem before Joe Schoen got here. You went out and signed Nacho early on. The run defense has not improved. Graham Gano, you gave him an extension worth $11.3 million. Since that extension, he has made 29 of 38 kicks, and he has been hurt and he's cost you game after game after game. Drew Lock, $5 million. He was horrible last year. He was good against the Colts, but for a backup quarterback you thought you could have won some games with, and there were reports that came out that when the Giants signed him, it was going to be a QB competition between him and Daniel Jones. Russell Wilson gave him $10.5 million. You benched him after 3 games. He went 0-3. You could have had Jameis Winston do that for far less. Darius Slayton, one of the worst moves, giving him $22 million, 3 years, $36 million, has a $16 million cap hit next year. James Hudson was the swing tackle that was going to save this O-line's depth. He doesn't even dress on game days anymore. Roy Robertson-Harris, well, I don't think he's been horrible this year. You paid $5.3 million for a defensive tackle to help shore up the run defense, and your run defense is actually worse than what it has been over the last couple of years. So it just seems like every time you try to upgrade the position, even on the low end, you never, ever have big hits. And most importantly, like all 3 of these equal the last one. He doesn't win games. His football team doesn't win games. The head coach he hired doesn't win games. How come we don't factor that in? Oh, people say Daboll stinks. Well, Joe hired him. And I get it. Most GMs get 2 head coaches, but most GMs also don't miss on the 7th pick, miss on top pick after top pick after top pick. Super Bowl champion running back leaves and goes elsewhere. Like Pat Leonard said it best. And I know some people don't love Pat Leonard. I think he brings the heat, and I think he's honest. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, 2-7 this year. 3-18 in their last 21 games. 5-21 in their last 26. 5-17-1 in the NFC East. 2-14-0 against the Eagles and the Cowboys. 20-39-1 in 4 seasons. And since that run of the early part of your first season here, you're 14-37-1 in your last 52 games. You don't win games. And when GMs can't build football teams that don't win games, you have to move on and get people in the building that do win games. That's why you should have hit the reset button last offseason. On top of the fact you had the 3rd overall pick. You had like 4 or 5 picks in the top 100. You had $50 million in cap space. You should have hit the reset button last year. And now you need to. And I don't know if you will. Like, are the Giants ready to fire another GM? Like, it's a piece of this puzzle. And look, we're praying for him. We know he's going to fight his tail off. And we are hoping the absolute best for Mr. John Mara as he battles cancer. But I think it would be a little bit... I think it would be me not doing a good enough job to say, are the Giants ready to fire another GM, rehaul that entire building with John Mara dealing with what he's dealing with? Like, it's horrible. It's awful. We all agree. His attention needs to be on that. I don't know if he is ready to lead a search. And that brings me, are Chris Mara and Tim McDonald ready to lead a GM search? I don't know. I don't know. That should have did it last year. The tough decisions you don't make the tough decisions you don't make that you need to make will always come back to haunt you. The tough decision last year was to fire them. It really wasn't even that tough. And here we are, not even a year later, talking about the same damn thing again. And John Mara, you knew this was a possibility. You stood on the Quest Diagnostic inside practice field and said, it better get turned around quickly. I don't have much more patience. If I'm feeling this way, this time next year, there will be changes. And I'm sure you're actually feeling worse because it is a worse product that you're seeing this year. If you want the Giants to clean house, hit that thumbs up icon for me. I don't say this because I want them to lose their jobs. I say this because I want the Giants to be competitive again, and I just have no faith in Joe Schoen running this football team. Make sure you are following me on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram @MarshallGreen_.